Hey everybody, hi. Coming at you with I guess it's a bonus episode of a podcast is how this is probably getting framed up, because I'll probably break the audio out separately and throw that as a little bonus on the podcast feed. But today is the day that Starfield reviews have been allowed to hit the internet. And so I thought I would record something real quick. I'll probably have more to say in more depth as time goes on. I've only been able to spend about 20-ish hours with the game, 25, somewhere in there. I ended up getting my hands on the game quite a bit later than some of the other publications. There's a kind of a ridiculous story attached to that perhaps I will tell someday. Let's say I was surprised when I got a response. Anyway, so I've been spending time with Starfield on the PC. I have not seen it running on an Xbox yet, because I've just been focused on seeing as many things as possible and kind of just getting around and playing, getting into the game. It runs really well on PC. I think from a frame rate perspective, I think it's been nice and smooth. A couple spots here and there where you see it get frame, but like nothing crazy. And on the bug front, I'll say on my first, like 20, 25, knock on wood, I guess. But I have not seen anything major. There was a situation where I went to talk to someone and she was walking and she got stuck on a chair and then she started vibrating. And then the camera started trying to keep in front of her to make the shot work, and the camera kept going back and forth in front of her, and but the conversation still worked. And then as soon as the conversation ended, she walked, and it wasn't anything major. A couple of cases of that, and then one case where I was on my ship and a dude just showed up by the airlock, and went up, and he was just standing there, not moving, not animating. Nothing. And I went up and talked to him. It triggered a conversation that almost seemed like it's like supposed to be a random, like a guy that you have like a random encounter with in a town or something. Like the context of it didn't make sense, that he was just standing on my ship. And then afterwards, he just went back to rigidly standing on the ship and didn't go away for a long time. And then I flew around and did some, and eventually I had turned around and he was not there anymore. But so that's either a bug or a bad story. I don't know. Yeah, that seems like it's probably a bug. But when I think about the early days of Fallout 4, and how messed up that game could be, I have not seen anything that approaches that level of busted. In my time with the game, it's been pleasant, downright pleasant, I would say. And to that end, I would say I am really enjoying my time with Starfield. I think it is compelling. I think that the things they have done, aesthetically, I love the look of that game. The ships, I think everyone is kind of like just about ready to start rolling their eyes at the term NASA punk or whatever. But I think that, whatever you want to call it, I really do like the look of the game. I think a lot of the weapons and space suits and helmets but also just the environments and the insides of ships and the different cities you go to, like it has its, pleasure city called Neon, that has a nightclub that, you go like, oh yeah, like, we got kind of Mass Effect vibes in some parts, but also very grungy, space miner, dusty, dirty, messed up areas as well. And so I like what they've done aesthetically a lot. As far as the game itself, I think if you've played a copious amount of this team's previous work, Fallout 4, Skyrim, basically anything between here and Skyrim, maybe here in Oblivion, I guess. A lot of this game will seem very familiar. Like, you will immediately see systems in this game that have been, with this team's games for, decades at this point. The first one I noticed is, the opening of the game. I walked up and talked to a character and just popped in the corner and said, "This individual is busy." And you're like, okay, yeah, right. It's this is still this team's games. Speech, dialogue trees, like all that stuff is you're going to be very familiar with it. And I think a lot of the systems in place you will see and go, oh, this is, okay, there's, weapon attachments and upgrades and like this looks a lot like this, or, like these systems came into this this team's games back in Fallout 3, or they're back in here, and whatever. So I think you'll feel that a lot of that stuff, particularly the stuff on the ground, obviously, because space travel is something they have not tackled just yet. But the ground game, combat, running around, and I think it all feels really good. And I would say that this feels a lot better. Just the gunplay, shooting, aiming down sights, like the those interactions generally feels a lot better than anything they've done before. I think that there are some situations where like a guy is hiding behind cover and you can still line up a shot on him and you pull the trigger and it doesn't hit and you're like, was that a bad dice roll or something, or did it, is it just counting him as behind cover, and are the bullets not weaving between the parts of this object and getting stuck on some invisible wall? Like, I don't know what the situation is here, but there've been a few cases like that where you're shooting at someone in cover and I've been like, I should be mowing this guy down, and it's just not happening until he stands up, and then I nail him. So there's a little funky stuff around the edges there, but I think the shooting is really beyond that, like really well done. There's great diversity in the weapons, especially when you start slapping upgrades on them. Kind of goes full, or goes down the Call of Duty road a little bit with the attachments, where you can go like, okay, I can put a tactical grip on this, and then I can aim down sights faster at the expense of this. Or I can put a long barrel on it, which is going to reduce hip fire accuracy, but it increases range, and those sorts of things. And you can modify space suits and helmets as well to kind of put different stats and upgrades and things on them. Things that'll be like, oh, +5 to oxygen. Like those sorts of those sorts of changes. Oxygen in the game is often used as sort of a stamina mechanic more than a pure, like, you are out of oxygen and you are dying. Because oxygen will kind of recover. You have a meter and it will drain. And if you drain it, you will start building up CO2, like a red line will kind of start reducing into your oxygen meter. And if you go all the way red, then you start taking damage. You'll be in situations where like, hey, this is an extreme climate and that stuff's going to drop no matter what. But generally speaking, most of the planets I've been to, you are still like, if you stop moving, you recover oxygen. And you only lose oxygen if you're running, unless you're encumbered. The game does still have encumbrance. And if you're encumbered, you will lose oxygen just by moving. And you can't fast travel. Pretty standard stuff. The game gets going really quickly. Like Skyrim gets going really quickly. Like you're on the cart and then suddenly there's a dragon and then you're running away and then you're doing the video game. This is a lot like that in terms of you fade up and you're a miner getting ready to do some mining, and you're mining something special for some special client or whatever, and then you're the person who gets to go mine the special thing out. And then suddenly you are basically deemed like, you're special, you need to come with us. And then you are whisked away to Alpha Centauri, where you meet up with Constellation, which is the explorers group that they've talked quite a bit about. And suddenly you're with Constellation, and here's a ship, and here, get out there and find stuff. and it's really fast. Like they really didn't want to F around with like too much setup in the game. You go from like, I'm a miner just out here digging with my digging laser to, you are perhaps the most important person in the world. Like that. It's funny. But it's effective insofar as like it gets you into the game really quickly. I think the main storyline There was an initial version of what I wrote that is on Patreon. It is the kind of a text version of this, where I said that the main story was a little dry. But last night that started picking up in ways that I was like, oh, okay, all right, that's not. I expected something like this, and I hope it goes in an interesting new direction instead of there's some pretty tropey stuff that it could get into. That I hope that they did not fall into some of the same traps that other sci-fi video games have. That's I'm being vague because there's plot points and twists and stuff, and that I don't really want to give away. I actually read the list of things they don't want mentioned in reviews just before recording this, and there was one word in there that I was like, I really wish I didn't read this. But that also has the effect of like, now I'm really excited to see where this story goes. I kind of already was getting there by some of the twists and turns. The game has factions and side quests and activities and, kind of all those different tiers of quests, where you can join the kind of the military faction. There's basically like the two kind of main, I guess what you would think of as like good guy factions. It's the Freestar Collective and the UC, and UC is what, like United Citizens. I forget what it actually stands for. And they're the more kind of military, like, service guarantees citizenship type of crew. And then the Freestar Collective is more Wild West. Like literally you get a companion who is a famous Freestar guy, and he's walking around in a cowboy hat the entire time. I should look at him, because he wears a helmet like everybody else out in space. I should look and see if he's wearing the hat under the helmet. I bet he's not, but kind of Hangman Adam Page vibes off that dude. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of ground stuff. I've completed a lot of quests. I've started kind of going down the faction roads, and there are some interesting stories right off the bat with some of those factions where you stumble onto just like a ravaged facility, and you're like, there's a horrific alien monster here, and why? And the getting into the mystery of why has been really fascinating. That's one of the first, that is in fact the first UC mission. With the Freestar Collective, it's a little more like, hey, we got a mission board and go pick up some missions, and once you've done some of those, we'll let you join up for real. And then I assume there'll be some kind of quest line there. There's the Crimson Fleet. Is kind of presented as an enemy faction. The ships you're blowing up are often Crimson Fleet ships, at least in the early parts of the game. But it looks like you can potentially infiltrate or join their ranks or do something there too. So it's as in their previous work. You have multiple factions that you can take on missions for and go down that road. Activities is the stuff that's even a little less kind of important than that, and some of those things you'll just get by like walking by. There'll be like a guard saying like, oh, old Doc whatever is having trouble keeping supplies over at the medical shop, and then something will just like pop up in your quest log about like, go talk to Doc, or hey man, that's somewhere down in the well here, there's been a lot of brownouts, weird. And then you'll get a thing like, investigate the brownouts. And so I investigated the brownouts and ran all over and flipped junction boxes. Ooh, it's early in the morning. And completed that quest as well. Completing quests gives you levels, gaining levels give you skill points. The skill tree, the skill system, I think is pretty cool. It's broken up into tiers, so you'll have like your combat tier. You'll have a choice of 5 different skills, and then there's fewer tier 2 skills. But you can't pick any tier 2 skills until you've spent 4 points in the overall tree. And so you have to invest to get to the later stuff. Pretty standard stuff. The thing that I think makes the skill tree stand out is each skill has 4 levels to it, so you can spend, I believe, up to 4 skill points on it. I don't think the last one costs more. It may. I have not maxed out any of them just yet. but you have to complete a task before it will let you buy the next tier. So if you upgrade like ballistic weapon, if you buy tier 1 of ballistic weapons, which gives you like a 10% increase in your ballistic weapons damage, and you want to go to tier 2, before it will let you buy tier 2, you have to, I believe, kill 25 enemies with ballistic weapons. And for fitness, which is an oxygen upgrade, I believe, you have to run until you're out of oxygen 10 times, which you could just sit there and do. You know, it's almost like a Tony Hawk's Underground, kind of like just do a 15 trick combo and then watch your stats go up. Like it's kind of like that. It is not get a turbo controller and jump up and down for 3 hours to max out your jump stat or anything nuts like that. But forces you to, you know, as you like, I think that helps with the idea of speccing into how you're actually playing the game, instead of just like, I'm going to dabble in this, I'm going to dabble in this. Like you can really more look at it as just like, you know, on tier 1 you dabble, but you're only going to unlock the second tiers for the things that are the second tiers of the skills for the ones that you're actually using. And that's kind of cool. I've enjoyed that aspect of the game quite a bit. You know, like at the start of the game, you don't have a stealth meter. You have to put a point into stealth before, you know, the thing that where it says hidden or detected or danger that all of these games do. You have to put a point into stealth before you get that. And, you know, that's interesting. So it's, in a lot of ways, it feels like they've found different ways to package up systems that you're probably familiar with. And I think that the way that they've packaged them up is really well done. And I like that aspect of the game quite a bit. The companions have been good so far. You know, I feel like every one of these games people come away with like, no, this is the one great companion, and oh, this is the funny one, and this is that. I either haven't hit that companion yet, or there isn't one. I couldn't tell you because I haven't finished the game. But I will say, like, the companions that I have access to are good. They're compelling. You know, the cowboy I was talking about, like when you take him on your ship, his like 12-year-old daughter comes with you, and so she's like on the ship cracking jokes, and you know, she's one thing that she really loves books, like real books. And she tells you that when you first start talking to her. And so I was out in a mining facility, and I just found a room that was like full of books, like 6 books in there. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take all these books and bring them back to the girl. But there was no give books to girl option, even though she has dialogue lines like, do you have any books for me? I'm like, yeah, I got Dracula. I got all these public domain books that they have littered around the game. But maybe that's something that pops up later. But I was a little bummed that I was not able to give her the books. New persuasion minigame, new lockpicking minigame. Persuasion is more of a points-based thing where it'll say like, hey, you have 3 turns to get 6 points. And if you can do that, then you will persuade this person. And it'll give you like multiple lines of dialogue, each with a different color-coded level of success, and also a number of points that you will get if you successfully choose that one. So, you know, the green color that you're definitely going to get will only give you 1 point, but you have 3 turns to get 6 points. And so you might risk and go like, well, I'm going to go for the +4, even though it's red, and just hope that it happens. You can upgrade your persuasion to make those, you know, easier, and you can upgrade your lock picking to, you know, go from novice locks to advanced locks to, you know, again, you know, if you've played a lot of their games, I think that you will find systems that you are incredibly familiar with a good fresh coat of paint. Like the thing I don't want people to think is like, oh, it's just another one of these, because in a lot of ways it is, but I do think the way that they've packaged it up is smarter than a lot of the things they've done in the past. Inventory management, I think, is kind of a hassle. Like, you know, I feel like I'm missing I need to dig into it more and just find ways to make it easier to switch weapons. But it does that thing where it's like, I've got 12 guns on me. They all take different types of ammo. And when you run out of ammo, you got to go into your screen and go like, well, which guns do I have ammo for? And so I find myself carrying around way more guns than I wish I was, because they're heavy and you get encumbered. But like, I need to have a gun that I have bullets for. I guess that, at the end of the day, you could just keep picking up guns off of dead enemies, and they're going to have the ammo for the guns that they're going to be carrying. Maybe that's a smarter way to do it. But that's not how I've been doing it. Yeah, it's I am having a really good time with it. I'm finding it fascinating. Space travel is a little weird. I think ship combat is really well done. Like you see some X-wing in that game. It'll let you distribute power across multiple systems. So your ship will have, like, let's say 13 blocks of power, and you can put 4 blocks into lasers and 5 into engines, and and kind of distribute power as you see fit to, like if your shields are going down all the time and you have the capacity to put more power into it, you can, and they will recharge faster. Also in the combat itself, you will have, I think every ship can have 3 weapons on it. The default has you with a laser, which is good for bringing down shields, a ballistic weapon, which is good against hulls. So once you've knocked down the shields, you switch to that. And then missiles, which, are fine in any situation, but, more effective against hulls as far as I can tell. Obviously, you can upgrade your ship. You can build new ships. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can slap new weapons, better reactors, all of that. It's just really expensive. Similarly, you can build outposts, and outposts can help you harvest materials like aluminum and water and oxygen, like whatever you need for your upgrades and mods and all of that. I have not really been able to do that because building the facilities is expensive. It takes a ton of materials that I just don't have. So I plopped down a beacon, which kind of says, like, hey, I'm going to build an outpost here. And then I was like, okay, let's build an outpost. Let's finally do it. And then I looked at my materials. I was like, I don't have enough materials to even build a building, let alone anything that's going to extract any kind of minerals or, so it was just like, I kind of walked away from it. And so it's just a beacon with no base sitting out there in the middle of nowhere. And so, I haven't really been able to experiment too much with that. But you can assign, as you meet people and bring them into your team, you can assign them to your different things, different spots on the ship, and different outposts and whatever else. So each person comes with different specialties that I imagine will impact their ability to get minerals or help your ship or whatever it ends up being. I haven't really felt the effects of those stats in any way in the game just yet, but they do list stats for the companions. Gosh, what else? Like, there's more. There's other stuff in there that I guess I won't get into for reasons of story and spoilers and so on and so forth. But I think Constellation is an interesting group of characters. You have the guy who's the money man funding it all, and the different kind of ragtag group of explorers. And I think that for the most part, they've been good, well-written characters that have been interesting to go out on missions with. I found good characters in the side stuff. So, like, from a story and narrative perspective, it's been compelling through kind of multiple areas, through in multiple ways, multiple storylines. The action itself has been sound, has been fun, and I was randomly. There was a point where I got the the thing I had to do was grav jump anywhere to, like, get away. And so I picked a planet and just, like, get out. We got to get out of here. So we went, and then I ended up in an area where there was a space station just sitting there, like, just floating out in space. I was like, oh, weird. Okay. And I flew closer to it. I just decided, like, I don't know, I'm going to go check this out. And you can hail targets when you get close enough to them to talk to them. There was no response, and I was like, well, let's dock with this thing. And so we docked with this station and got on it, and there was no gravity. And so suddenly it was like, oh, this game totally, I guess it makes sense that this game would have zero gravity combat. I had not considered that, but there was a bunch of enemies on there, gunned those fools down in zero gravity, and that was interesting and fun. And it looked like it was a space casino and it looked like there was a computer that if I had the right code, I could open a vault or something. And so I spent some time looking around and never found any bits and pieces of the code. Maybe that's something I'll find on some other planet somewhere else, or maybe it's something I'll never find. Like that's kind of the way with these games, I suspect, as they've always been. But it was an interesting little diversion. Traveling is interesting because like it has very generous fast travel. So I could be standing in the lodge, which is the Constellation's base of operations, and I could bring up my mission list and hit like basically like set course, and it will immediately pull up the map with the planet that I'm traveling to next in the mission that I currently have selected, and then I can hit a button to jump there, and it will just go to a loading screen, and I will come back in orbit around that planet. And that's very convenient because it means you don't have to fast travel back to your ship. Like fast traveling on planet is weird because like when you have a scope that you pull up and you use that for like a No Man's Sky kind of like scanning, like you're scanning the alien animals and the plants and whatever else. But also it brings up targets like, hey, in 500 meters this way, there's something. It's a cave. It's a facility. Who knows? It just says unknown. But also your ship shows up as one of those. And so you fast travel by like looking for those icons. And if you've been to them before, you just hover over them and hit the button and you will fast travel to your ship, or you'll fast travel to another location on the planet. And that's been convenient as well. Obviously, the first time you go, you have to find a way to get there. And I've been running a lot because I want to do a lot of scanning, and scan plants and harvest plants and do mining and whatever else, because I just need stuff. If I'm ever going to try to build an outpost, I need a lot of stuff. And yeah, it's I forgot that there was actually an animation for when you jump to like light speed, when you do a grav jump to another system. But if you initiate it from the cockpit, there's a whole like spinning up the grav drive, big, light animation, like all that stuff that I don't think I saw. I don't remember seeing it for like the first 10 hours because the fast travel, you're just going boom, 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 boom. That's really convenient. It also kind of has this side effect of making the universe feel very disjointed and maybe a little small, because you're just like teleporting from place to place and you're like, oh, well, whatever. Here's another moon. Here's another this. And I went and landed on the moon, Earth's moon, just to see what was there. And, there was a facility. I gunned down some dudes and, but I didn't find any, like, I haven't really found any random, and most of this is because I've been doing the kind of laid out missions. I have not spent a ton of time aimlessly exploring, because I want to level up and see stuff, and I kind of wanted to see as much as I could before I talk to you here. But I guess that's to say that the few times that I've kind of gone out on my own and said like, what's over here? The answer has rarely been worth it, I guess I would say. Like you find a facility and you're like, oh, there's some food here. Like, oh, that's a cool gun, I guess. Or, oh, there's a bunch of bad guys here and I shot those guys and at least they're dead now. But there's rarely been like emergent, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I stumbled onto this story, or I haven't stumbled onto much of anything just yet. But I'm still out there looking around, I guess. And that's been fun too. Hopefully there's more meaningful random stuff out there, that isn't necessarily attached to a mission, but that's been my experience so far. So yeah, I guess, I'd say in conclusion, I'm having a really good time with it. I think it is, just from how cohesive it feels, for how because they've made a lot of these games at this point, like this style of game. Like the part where it's in space just means it's like bigger in a different way than their other games, but that's, you've still got melee weapons, and when you start swinging the swords and knives and doing this other stuff around, you look at it and go like, yeah, those guys made this game. Those folks made this. Yeah, but I do think that like the systems feel like they are a little more thought out than perhaps they have come off in the past. And I don't know, like it all comes together in a really nice way. the skill system, the weapons, the like all of the stuff kind of meshes in a way that I don't think it did in say Fallout 4, for example. And so that's been nice. And so I think it, in a lot of ways, this, I might, and again, it's early for me to say this because I have not spent a ton of time. I'm only 20, 25 hours in. But I'm having a really, really good time with it. And it's probably the best one of these they've made, just in terms of it has not caught on fire yet. It has, the systems feel good and sound. The writing is really solid and exciting and intriguing. Some of the things that you do kind of find as you go through the main plot line are, to me, they were unexpected. Not unexpected in like this is a brand new thing, but unexpected in a way of like, oh, they put this in from this other guy. Okay, they found a way to do this. They found a way to translate this concept into a sci-fi game. Okay, and that's been cool. The zero G stuff is, yeah. There's other stuff I would like to talk about, but it is very directly stuff that would spoil the story. So I am going to leave that a little vague. Apologies for that, but it's my recommendation is that you should play it. Yeah, I am going to continue playing it. I'm having a really good time with it, and I intend to keep going. And we'll see how the rest of it goes. That's going to do it for me. If we'll talk about it more on the podcast on Tuesday, I'm sure. And we'll probably stream some of it next week as well. Maybe that Wednesday we'll do a Starfield thing, because they, the people that are playing it today, like and a lot of companies do this, but the request was, hey, start from the beginning. Because they don't want you going with your end game character and going, look what I can do, like all of that stuff. And that's a very sensible request. That's, Sony did that with Horizon. Like that's not an uncommon request either, for people that are going to be streaming a game. And I am more interested in the things that have started happening to me now 10 to 20 hours in. And so when I do stream it, I will probably pick up enough days will have passed that enough people will have gotten to that point in the game that I feel okay kind of starting a little later in, because I'm sure like it is 10 after 9, so I'm sure that there's already a buttload of people streaming the game and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's going to do it for me here. That's my kind of early review of my time with Starfield, and yeah, I'm having a really, really good time with it. And it's been fun. Like you can tell that they spent a lot of time thinking about this one. Not that they didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the others, but I feel like it shows, like I said, there's a cohesion to a lot of the systems and the way things come together that I think works a lot better than their other games. So I think that's cool. As someone who has played all of them, all of their modern games, I guess. I was not a big Morrowind guy, because I don't know if you remember the Xbox version of that, but I mean, it's cool that they got it to run. But Oblivion is where all that stuff kind of started, I think, in a mainstream way. So, and I've played all of those games, to varying degrees of completion. Actually, maybe Skyrim is the only one I didn't finish. I got to a point with it where I was just like, I'm tired of climbing up this mountain and talking to this dragon. I don't these dragon shouts. I'm just not into it. I kind of fell off of it a little bit. But yeah, this game is very cool. It's, again, I think if you've played, Bethesda Game Studios' previous games, you will see a lot of stuff in here that you have seen before. But I think they've successfully put a fresh coat of paint on it. And if you're at all into the setting of space and sci-fi, that will go a long way, of course. And because I think they've done that stuff really well. And the lore around humanity exploring the stars and what have you, I think that stuff has been compelling as well. So I think they've created a good universe here. They have they're on their way to telling what seems like a pretty compelling story as well. And I'm very, very interested to see where it goes from here. So that's going to do it for me here. We'll talk more about Starfield. Well, we'll talk more about everything on the podcast on Tuesday. There is I wrote out it's again, not necessarily a full review because I have not finished the game, but I did write something about my time with Starfield. If you want to read that, that is available for everyone to read at the time of you hearing this. That will be up for everyone. And you can find that at patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. Go ahead and read that. And we'll reconvene to talk about it some more next week. Have a good one, everybody.